Pascal Siakam is headed to the Indiana Pacers in exchange for Bruce Brown, some salaries, and 3 first-round picks. Now, Siakam to Indiana is a deal that has been rumored for a while. This is the first really big trade piece, star trade so far at the NBA trade deadline, and this is an incredibly interesting deal for both teams. And I want to start by talking about Indiana's perspective here. A couple of things that are really important for them in this deal. Obviously, Bruce Brown has been good for them, especially since Halliburton has been hurt. He's been taking on more of the on-ball responsibilities. He's a good player. We're going to talk about that a little bit later with Toronto, but it's important to point out the players that are not in this deal for Indiana, and that's Benedict Mathurin and that's Jarris Walker. They are not trading away any of their core young pieces in exchange for Pascal Siakam, which is part of the reason why it's going to cost them 3 first-round picks in addition to Bruce Brown and some salary. And this is a fit that has made a lot of sense here for a while. The Siakam rumors to Indiana have been pretty persistent, even going as far to say that they would be in on signing him as a free agent this upcoming offseason, which is a huge part of this as well. And just on the floor, the combination of Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam is really fun and really intriguing once Halliburton comes back and is fully healthy. Obviously, there's no way of telling in this moment if this pushes Indiana, into a top 4 conversation in the Eastern Conference or contenders or anything like that. They still can't guard anybody, and that is still going to be an issue with Siakam. But if you have, Mathurin, Halliburton, Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, that's a really cool group. Now, initially, this might seem like a ton to give up for Siakam, right? I mean, 3 first-round picks plus a useful player in Bruce Brown seems like a lot, especially when you consider that he's an upcoming free agent. And if this was a different team that maybe had a better chance of signing Siakam in free agency, this would feel like a lot. But there's 2 aspects to that. One, Siakam is really good. I mean, he's an all-NBA caliber player. He has made all-NBA teams. He is very good. And I think he's someone that kind of gets overlooked a lot throughout the league because of being in Toronto, and there's just a lot more stars that are, maybe a little bit flashier. Siakam is very good. The Pacers added an all-NBA caliber player through this deal. They got the best player in the deal. That cannot be overlooked. And also, if you're Indiana, even though you would have had the ability to bring him in free agency, with a max contract, it's much easier to just go ahead and trade for the guy and then sign him to an extension than it is to keep your fingers crossed and hope that you can convince him to sign with you when there's all these other teams vying for him. And Indiana's, mindset here was, yes, this is going to cost a lot, but we're adding an all-NBA caliber player and we're guaranteeing that he is going to be on our team next year, which would not be a guarantee if you went into free agency. And then at that point, if you don't get Siakam, you have lost the opportunity to bring in an all-NBA caliber player because that seemed like the one guy they felt at least a little bit confident that they could get in free agency. Having said that, 3 firsts is a lot, even for a player as good as Siakam, and that's going to be a concern a little bit for the future for the Pacers. They have an extra first-round pick that is not their own that they can use here. They've obviously, 2 of their own as well. So it's not necessarily like they're giving up 3 of their own first-round picks, so that certainly helps here. But to me, I like the deal. It's a solid, B plus for Indiana because of the caliber of player that they're bringing in. The argument could be made that they could have just waited till the offseason and saved these assets or potentially used them for another player. But if you're the Pacers and you have the opportunity to trade for an all-NBA caliber player that wants to be there and wants to sign with you, that's an opportunity that you kind of have to take, because if you're not going to get them this way, then you have to find them through the draft. And if you don't think you have one of those guys on your team right now that's going to develop into one of those players, trading for someone like Siakam is the only way to do it. Now for Toronto, this is a deal that I really like for them. I mean, we've been talking about Toronto for 2 months now, right? About the fact that ever since, not the year after Kawhi left, but any year following that, they have not been anything close to a contender. They've barely been a playoff team. They're clearly, kind of on this downhill trajectory, and they needed to get value out of their players. They lost Van Fleet in free agency in the offseason. They trade away OG Anunoby for some good value, and now they get awesome value out of a player in Pascal Siakam that was not going to be on the team in a handful of months. When the summer came around, Pascal Siakam was going to be on a different team. They were very far apart on extension talks. It seemed like a certainty that he was going to be playing elsewhere. And to get this kind of value, not just the draft picks, which is going to help them continue to build this team now kind of as they move into the Scottie Barnes era. But also, Bruce Brown is someone that they could flip later on as a team option next year for $20 million, which sounds like a lot. But Bruce Brown is useful, and he's someone that you can, use this year, maybe still move before the deadline to another team or going into next year as well. He's someone that they could still get, late first round value out of someone like Bruce Brown. And I think part of the reason he's in the deal is because they wanted one of the young guys, Mathurin or Walker. They didn't get him. And so ultimately they got Bruce Brown in the deal instead. And so conceptually, in terms of future team building for Toronto, this makes a ton of sense because they're obviously going into a new era. And then also making sure that you're getting value out of someone that wasn't going to be on the team anyway. And when you look at the two trades in combination, where you have OG Anunoby going out, getting Emmanuel quickly and getting RJ Barrett, Pascal Siakam going out, getting Bruce Brown some salary and 3 first-round picks. That is an awesome haul if you're Toronto. You're trading away really good players. Both those guys are very, very good. But a foundation of Quickly, Barrett, Scottie Barnes, some of the other young guys on the roster, and multiple extra first-round picks for an Indiana team that is not guaranteed to be a contender by any means. They still can't guard anybody, and they're really, really good, but it's not like this is a guaranteed, 25th and later pick that you're getting here over the next couple of seasons, from Indiana. And mostly, I'm just glad that Toronto finally realized and decided that it was time to make moves like this, because the disaster scenario for them was going into the offseason and just assuming that they were going to be able to re-sign not only Siakam, but OG Anunoby as well, who they also traded away the year after losing Fred VanVleet for nothing in free agency. This is something that they absolutely had to do. So moving forward for both of these teams, for Toronto, I'm really excited to see what Scottie Barnes continues to grow into now with all of the space around him. Like him and OG Anunoby and Siakam all kind of occupied similar places on the floor. So now it is very clearly like Scottie Barnes is our best player kind of territory that they're in here. And then also RJ Barrett has had some good moments, Quickly has had some good moments, and then they have some more draft compensation here moving forward, in addition to what should be a good first-round pick here coming up as well, because they're not going to be very good here to end the season. And for Indiana, they got to figure out a way to guard. They've got to figure out how to kind of make up for the loss of Bruce Brown on the perimeter. But when Halliburton comes back, him and Siakam together offensively are going to be awesome. And if they can shore up the defense, maybe they're not done making moves, and obviously they're still going to have some flexibility this offseason as well in free agency. This is a really, really cool move for them. For Toronto, I'm going to go A+, just because if you're talking about a guy that's not going to be on the team in a few months and you're getting, multiple first-round picks, that's obviously a great deal. And for Indiana, B+ kind of territory. The only reason it's not better than that is just because this doesn't guarantee you anything. No trade guarantees you anything in the NBA, but if you're looking at the roster for Indiana, it is an improvement. They got the best player in the deal, and they added an all-NBA caliber guy, but they still might not have a top 4 roster in the Eastern Conference, and that's concerning for a team that just traded away multiple first-round picks for a player in Siakam that is very, very good, but doesn't necessarily put you in an entirely new category in the Eastern Conference. The bottom line is, though, I cannot wait to see what both of these teams now look like after this deal with Siakam in Indiana, with all the new pieces, plus a little bit more freedom for Scottie Barnes in Toronto. These are the kinds of deals that I love in the NBA, where Indiana is taking a risk on Siakam being kind of the missing piece for them, and Toronto is moving into a new direction in a really smart and intelligent way. These are the deals that I love, and I cannot wait to see how this works out for both teams.